Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar today, Tuesday Tips and Tricks. It's good to be with you. Glad that you've joined us. Before we get started today, if you wouldn't mind just dropping a quick little message in here where you're joining us from. You've got Ryan Harris, the president of Strategic Social Partners, and Mitch Adams is also on here with us. And we're going to have a deep dive into what in the world is the content calendar. Last week we talked about the brainstorming diagram. And now we're going to make a correlation of how does the brainstorming diagram create infrastructure to helping you have more success. So if you haven't had a chance to go back and watch the previous webinars, we are going to be placing those on our new website, which should be published this week. And then you'll be able to have access to, by date, those Tuesday tips and tricks. We've got a team on that now, so it'll be exciting to get you some more information. Mitch, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, everybody.
Just a quick question. I'd love to hear where you guys are joining us from. So if you throw in the chat window on the, I believe it's on the right-hand side of your screen as well, what area of the world you're joining us from, and also what business you're a part of. I'd like to hear so we can get some more information. And yeah, Wisconsin. Carolyn, welcome. Twin Falls, wine industry. Felicia, nice to have you with us. Hey, Carol. Christina. Okay, well, let's dive right in. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to throw those questions into the chat window right here on the right-hand side. And, as we go through this, we'll backtrack a little bit. I know some of you are new to our Tuesday tips and tricks. Maybe you've been with us before or haven't been with us before. But the purpose of these Tuesday tips and tricks are really to build infrastructure for you on the best things that you can do in your business to create long-term success for you and for your business. And this is more specifically directed towards Facebook advertising, social media advertising, storytelling, organic plays on social media. And today we're going to dive in more depth into how do you create the story, the infrastructure behind your social media presence, and why is that important? Last week we talked about creating the brainstorming diagram, and this week we're going to show you how to implement the brainstorming diagram and tie that directly into everything else. So Mitch, if you'll open up, are you screen sharing with us? Would you mind?
I can do that.
So last week we talked about, and Mitch, if you have an example of a brainstorm diagram, let's pull that up just so we can show people, take a step back for those that weren't with us last week, and show them exactly what we're doing from a brainstorming diagram perspective, and then moving forward, how we can make that correlation. So give us just a quick minute here.
Yeah, I have a blank one.
Perfect.
You know what I think is cool while I'm pulling this up is, Ryan, we really do share everything that we do with our clients day to day. In these webinars, we really don't hold anything back. So it's important for people to know that if they take action on these things, they're going to have success like we have for our clients. Yeah. Now, I mean, there is some execution that we've practiced, so we do have more experience. So sometimes it goes our way faster, but these really are the exact same things that we do.
As a matter of fact, these are the exact same documents that we're using right now with one of our clients who does about $3 million a year in business and hasn't really created infrastructure. We have another one that's doing, Mitch, between all three locations, they're doing what, about $200,000 to $300,000 per location. So over
they're doing
more than that.
Yeah,
they're doing 75 a month times 12. I mean, they're almost $1 million in each, probably $600,000 to $1 million per location. So it's about another $3 million business that we run ads with. And, people always wonder and ask the question, okay, so we have all this infrastructure. Does this work for me? And does it make sense for me to implement this? Well, it doesn't matter the size of business. And that's, I think, what Mitch was trying to articulate. And what he was saying very well is, not trying to articulate, what he was saying is that it doesn't matter what size of business you are, these principles apply to no matter what business you're in. So whether you're in the wine industry, whether you're in the health and wellness industry, whether you're in the, let me see who else is on here with us, whether you're in the real estate business, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, these principles apply across the board. So Mitch, if you'll go up here, So, that we go down to the brainstorming diagram, but I think when it comes to with one of our clients, and what's cool about what we do as well is we always implement different elements into our business based on the conversation dialogue we're having with our clients. We're always trying to improve. So where we started out initially with just a brainstorming diagram, which was this in front of you, we've determined that we were missing pieces of that brainstorming diagram when it came to, okay, what's the vision of the company? And for those of you that are out there that have more of a vision, vision is just a picture of future success. What does it look like? And we went through this a little bit last week, but as you identify the vision, then that becomes the core basis for your brainstorming diagram. As you develop the mission statements or the mission of your company, those can become those supporting elements. And as you do the value statements, those really become those things that you want to articulate to your audience in a way that attracts people to you. Principles and standard, personal quality, characteristic traits, codes of ethics. And so as you were going through this, if you go down to, Mitch, go down to the brainstorming diagram now, you can see here you have your vision, you have your mission statements, and then you have your value propositions that associate with that. And one of the main dialogues that I've always had, and I know Mitch has this same conversation with our clients, is when it comes to developing those purpose or those value statements, you don't want to just come out and say, this is what our value statement is, or this is what our mission statement is, because then it becomes a little bit of a push play versus let me show you who we are by what we do. Let me show you who we are by how we position content through social. Let me show you who we are by how we're connecting with you, because we recognize that you are an important person to our business individually, and you make an impact on our business just like our business makes an impact on you. So we reverse engineer the messaging process, and we establish those mission statements, and then we go into how do we best tell those things to our audience? How do we best share the concepts? And if you remember last week, we went through that one example of chewing gum, extra chewing gum. And then the next week, or 2 weeks ago, then last week we went through the Dove commercial and how it's creating an emotional connection for people to a brand, and really articulating those mission, those vision statements without coming out and saying, here's what Dove is and here's what their mission statement is. It showed it based on values that people thought would make sense to them. So we have this brainstorm diagram, and if you want to go back and listen to the previous webinar, you're welcome to. Then we go to the next step from our brainstorming diagram, and we take, and Mitch, I'll have you walk through this, but we take these concepts in the brainstorming diagram and we put it into what we call an execution strategy, where we really dive in and create infrastructure and a game plan, if you will, a day-to-day task orientation game plan to make sure that we are posting the things that we need to, the times that we need to in connection with our story, versus just randomly throwing things out there. Mitch, maybe you can dialogue a little bit behind this of how many customers and clients do we come in contact with that have never put together a social media calendar?
I would say 100% of the time.
That's crazy.
And yeah, pretty much every time. And this can go beyond just what you're posting on social media. It can go to all of your marketing efforts, coordinating all of it so that it's all tying back to that same story, to those same values, to that same mission. And I think as it ties together, it just makes a better story, more cohesive story.
Right. So make the connection for our audience today, Mitch. Talk to them about how you take that brainstorming diagram and what that looks like here in a social media calendar.
Cool. So yeah, typically what we do is you have these 4 different missions or values, and then you just take one of these for each month. So we'll use this generic example. You'd come here we'll start in September, since that's what month we're in, and you type mission number 1. And these become your monthly themes.
Mitch, while you're doing that, one thing that I want to bring to light is the sheer fact that these mission statements are solid, but you don't have to so go back to that brainstorming diagram just for a quick second, because I want to show people this. As you're developing these missions, when you're writing it down, just get everything on paper and then go back to it, and then you number those missions based on how you would lay it out in a story fashion. So for instance, we had an example with one of our clients, and he had 10 specific things that he wanted to focus on from a mission statement perspective. But from a priority or a most important, mission that he wanted to get across first, he would prioritize that by number. And then we laid those out from a number perspective to come back and tie back into this. Okay, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to dive in, but you're exactly right. You might have mission 1, 2, 3, and 4 here, but that may not be the proper correlation. So when it comes to the social media calendar, Mitch, you can go back to that. You would lay that out in a story fashion, because as we've talked to many times in this context of a story, it's, documentation is the new form of content creation, and this whole process builds documentation.
Yeah, and if some of your things that you're talking about, one of your missions is more relevant to back to school, for instance, then you're going to want to put that in September.
Exactly.
Or if it's more relevant to the holidays, you're going to want to put that in November and December. You, as part of tying it into that story, telling that story, then you do want to tie into the time of year. Like, you don't want to talk about winter clothing in the middle of summer, for instance. So yeah, you get your monthly themes out here on this page. And at the end of this webinar, we're going to share this spreadsheet with you, by the way. And then you go over to the next tab down here on the bottom, social media calendar. And this just breaks it out a little bit more in detail into your weekly themes. So again, in this generic example, mission number 1, mission number 2, you copy those over from the previous page to the month. And then for the week, each week, then you have these different purposes or these different values that correlate to that specific mission. And so those would become your weekly themes.
Yep.
And so you just fill all those in. So now okay, now in a matter of, if you're doing this for real, it would have taken like 10 minutes. You have the rest of the year weekly themes planned out of what you're going to post and what you're going to do in all of your marketing. So pretty cool. And then you come down here to the bottom, we have broken up July, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. We'll skip down to September. And you can always change these dates on here to make it the time of year that you're in. But we come to September, so you're going to copy over from there, mission 1, and then each of the week's purposes. You can just copy and paste it onto here to keep that consistent with September. And then you go to week 1, September, and you're going to put in your, right here, you're going to put in your monthly theme. And then here, you're going to put your weekly themes. Keep a good reminder. And then through here, then this is where you're going to plan out your daily posts. And so you can put the social media channel. So Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Instagram, and let's say you put your blog on there. Now you put a basic theme. So what do we want to post about on Sunday, Ryan, for mission number 1?
Well, let's take a business. So let's say that we are in the wine industry, right?
Okay.
And let's say our weekly theme, our purpose for the week is social. So, social connection or communication, right? Because I think a lot of wine drinkers just enjoy getting together. So, and let's say I live in New York. So Sunday, let's just talk, we'll just talk in 10 things to do on the weekends in New York might be a post on a Sunday. Put that in the description. Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay. Yep.
Oh, not 110. 10 things to do in New York this weekend. And then over here, this column kind of changes depending on how we're using it. It can either be a link. So let's say you found a blog, or let's say it's a link to your own blog, whatever it is. Then you do www. whatever. Or sometimes this is Oh no, not assigned. Yeah, it's link. Never mind, it's not two things. So here you can assign it to a few people.
Yep.
If you have multiple people in your company, then you can make the assignments and who's responsible for it. And then you put your link. If there's a link to that post or where you got that information, and you put that link there.
So, Mitch, let's brainstorm around this, because I think, those people that are on this right now, one question that I can imagine going on in their minds is, okay, I've got this calendar, which is great, but how in the world do I come up with all the content to place here? I have the values and the mission and the purpose statements, but how in the world do I come up with this stuff, or do I have to create content? I think that's one of the questions that we get from a lot of our clients as well. Of I don't want to go in and create content for everything, so what do I do?
Yeah. So coming up with the ideas, I mean, this process helps come up with the ideas. But beyond that, not having to create all the content is, we can use Pinterest to get a lot of that content, or Google. You can find a lot of this content. If you have the themes and stuff, then you can search. You have something to search for now. And so on Pinterest, what we do, and Ryan, you're more familiar with this, but you make these different boards. So you have your 4 different boards, mission 1, 2, 3, and 4, whatever they are. So you make those boards, and then you'll probably want to set yourself a timer so that you don't waste time, but give yourself 30 minutes or maybe 5 minutes per mission, and just go pin everything you can possibly find related to that mission. Yeah. And then when it's time to come in here and do the specifics of put in the link, then you're going to go back to your Pinterest board and you're going to look through and say, oh man, that would fit really well in this week or in this day or whatever. And
so then, let's show them how to do that, Mitch. So go open up Pinterest. We're going to walk you guys through this. I mean, literally, this is what we do with our clients. We walk through this in a consulting conversation and show them exactly how to do this. So let's take the wine industry still, and New York, right? So just type in, one of the missions was things to do in New York. So type in things to do in New York.
New York City, things to do in.
There you go. So now what you would do is you would go into your specific blog. So go down, Mitch, I know this is your wife, so click on her profile up in the top right-hand corner first. Now what you would do is you can go in and you can add a new board, right? So you can click on boards, you create a board, you put your mission statement there. And this might just be social, Mitch. You could even have a board on New York, right? Or just socialize, social connection or whatever. And then
socialize. There we go.
Whatever, you can make it secret. If you have your own personal page, you can make it secret so only you can see it, and then you can create that. And Mitch, your wife's going to love that, I'm sure. But now that you have
that secret,
right. Now that you have that board, now you can go in and say things to do in New York, and then you take the drop down, right? Let's say 15 things to do in New York. That first one. 20 has, so you hit save up on the top on the pin. Yep. And then it'll ask you what board you want to save it to. And then you find socialize, you create it. And now it's more or less, Pinterest, in my opinion, is more like a filing cabinet of really good ideas, right? So now you have all sorts of different articles that you can create and bring to light. Now, so let's say, for instance, the second thing we want to do, Mitch, if you want to go back to the brainstorm diagram, or not the brainstorm, but the social media calendar. So what would be a second thing to post on Monday? So just, or you can even just type in, go into Pinterest. If you can't come up with the stuff right here, then you go back to Pinterest and say, type in social, communication or socialize, or not even know if that's a word.
Well, you can socialize a puppy, so certainly we can socialize ourselves. Well, that doesn't look.
That doesn't do a whole lot. So maybe, with friends or something.
What?
Things to do with friends. right? That might be a way of socializing.
29 dates to go on with your best friend.
Yeah, there you go. It's a great way of socializing. So you can throw that into that board. And you can add that, you can add that as part of the infrastructure. So it all just creates it all creates infrastructure behind what it is, how it works, and how you really build value long-term for the people that you're in touch with. Look at that, make support. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I should save that actually save it for my wife.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
For the baby. Well, that's not really baby. Anyway, you might see, that's why you need to set a time limit, because you might get distracted finding things like this.
Get really distracted. Well, if you go back to the brainstorming diagram, then you can reverse engineer that again and say, okay, or I'm sorry, the calendar. Then you can go back to your calendar and say, okay, well, now I have all these other ideas that I can place there. And now I don't have to waste all of this extra time trying to create the content.
Yeah.
I think, Mitch, one thing we can do next week is talk about the different social media platforms and why you would position content one way versus another.
Yeah. I was going to say we could show them how to get the link now.
Yep. Let's do it.
One last step. If I can find that board, where'd that secret board go?
Just go down to socialize. It's probably towards the very bottom.
Oh, there it is. It wasn't scrolling down last time all the way. Socialize. Why isn't it? The internet doesn't want to be fast right now to show me what I just pinned. Hold on. There they are. So 15 things. We were supposed to have 10, but we got 15. So now you open it up and now you click on it to go to the actual website.
Now, Mitch, go back to Pinterest for just a quick second, though, before you do that. Because if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that there's a reference point, this xoxocat.com. Make sure, for instance, if you just like use this image on this page, like you save the image, because a lot of times when you're posting on Facebook, if you post a link directly to something, sometimes the reach isn't quite as effective. But if you saved this image right here, if you go up to the top, Mitch, the three little drop down or the three little buttons.
I'm going to just right click on it.
Yeah, you can right click on it, I think, and do that. Make sure that you give credit where credit is due, right? Because we're not trying to take information from people. But we want to make sure that you want to make sure you're giving credit where credit's due, because they've gone through the time and effort to make it happen.
So here's the link. You can also use this picture and then summarize. Is that what you're suggesting, Ryan? Summarize this.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying from the picture perspective, you can take the picture, right? Mm-hmm. And then just make sure that you cross-reference it. So like if you scroll down a little bit, you want to make sure, like when you post that to Facebook, for instance, sorry, go back up to that one image. I'll go back to Pinterest. There's the name of the person that created the content. You want to make sure that you add that into your pin or into your Facebook post, for instance, or into your Instagram post, so that you're crediting where the credit's due, where the reference of where it's coming from. Or, like on Facebook, you can just post a link. I mean, if you have an authentic growing group of people that are engaged in your content, then you can just post that there as well. The other thought would be, these are the ideas that they've given you. You can always go in and repurpose content, meaning, this says the 15 things to do in New York. You can go and read through the blog. And if you want to take 10 of those out and share with your audience, create your own blog post, then you can put that blog post back in, or you can just share 10 things on your social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram platforms. Does that make sense, Mitch?
Yeah. I think either way, then you'll take this link and put it right here. But then, yeah, if you can either repurpose it for yourself, make it your own blog or make it your own post, and then give credit to that person, or you can just post the link. But like Ryan said, then you're going to be sending traffic to somebody else's website, and the reach isn't going to be as good.
That's right.
On Facebook.
So that, I mean, I just wanted to show you guys how to do that so that you know how to really start building value and putting this story in place and sharing content that's applicable. Now, some of the content that's on Pinterest and whatnot might be applicable. Some may not be. You may want to create some of your own content if you're, or you might have somebody that helps you in that content creation process. But once you've developed out this story, then you can build the long-term value proposition behind it of your content calendar. And just like we do with our clients, like my client on Friday, we went through 10 different elements. We have an incredible brainstorm diagram put together. Now we need to go back and update and populate a content calendar and send that off to them and say, okay, here's all the content that we need to get out for this week. Or here's the different things that you wanted to share. Here are the ideas. Let's brainstorm this one more time and say, okay, or yes, we want to bring this stuff to light, or no, we don't want to bring this stuff to light, type of a deal. Does that make sense, Mitch? Are we on the same page there?
Yeah, well, it makes sense to me.
Guys, do you guys have any questions about that? We're right at 10:30. Are there any follow-up questions that you might have with this? Was this information, if this information was helpful to you, drop a comment here below wherever you find this. It might be on YouTube, might be on Vimeo, Facebook. You lost audio.
Everyone lost audio.
Well, you can go back and get the recording of this as well if you want to go back and watch that. I know sometimes we've had some audio issues here and there. It's typically on, it would be on your end, Carolyn, not necessarily on ours, because I can see my audio still working. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah, she still has.
Listen, if you'd like to be part of our group, we have a Facebook group called The Journey of the Entrepreneur. You're welcome to come join us. Inside of that group, we do share a lot of tips, tricks, ideas, strategies that can help you better build more value. I know Mitch just recently added a handout to this episode, and you can go and download this content calendar for those of you that are with us, or there'll be a link to it in the show notes, depending on where you find this episode or this Tuesday tips and tricks for the week. So yeah, I mean, thanks for being on with us. We always appreciate it. If this information was valuable to you, come back and see us every Tuesday at 10 o'clock Mountain Time, which would be 12 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Central. We're here every week, and we'd love to share with you as much as we possibly can. And like I said, Mitch, if you click up on the top, you'll see that Mitch has a master SM calendar. You can download that directly from this episode. Or if you're watching this later, you can download that from YouTube or wherever you're capturing this from. So thanks for being on with us today. We appreciate it. And until next week, bye for now.